Hi, in this presentation we will discuss about freedom to operate search in order to avoid any patent infringement by your product, and we'll also discuss about dealing with the identified adverse or infringing patent. So whenever you want to launch a new product in the market, you should identify any existing patent which may be infringed by your product. So, for avoiding any patent infringement by your product, you would require to do freedom to operate search in order to identify any adverse infringing patent. So, once you have identified the patent which may be infringed by your product, then you have to interpret the claims of that identified patent and then find out whether or not you are infringing that patent or those identified patents. So for finding out infringement, you have to do the claim interpretation. And once you have done the claim interpretation, and if you found out that your product may be infringing that patent claim, then you have to deal with that patent. So there are different options by which you can deal with that infringing patent. Now, first step is freedom to operate search. Freedom to operate search is done to detect any adverse patent which may be infringed by using, manufacturing, or selling your product or your invention. Determination of adverse interfering patent early before start or in early process of your project is very important, because once you have determined or identified the adverse interfering patent, then you will have different options. You may either go for licensing option for the infringing patent, or you may try to circumvent or bypass that infringing adverse patent if possible. So you can do some R&D, you can modify your product so that you will not infringe the patent claim. Freedom to operate search help immensely to avoid infringement problem. And freedom to operate search is important because much of the time and money invested in your project, it can be lost if some part of your project or product which you are making is infringing the patent. And in that case, you have to stop that project, because you cannot continue infringing any patent. The patent holder then will file the infringement case, and he will ask for the damages for the infringement. So that will be very costly. So the freedom to operate search is important, very important. Now, second step is interpreting the potentially identified infringing patent. This analysis should be conducted with the help of an IP professional, intellectual property professional, either the intellectual property attorneys, because interpretation of claim of patent, they involve both the legal as well as technical knowledge. So this analysis is done by carefully and objectively reviewing each claim of patent in light of specification. The claims are interpreted always in the light of specification, not alone. So you interpret the claims in light of specification to determine whether or not invention which you are making or you are going to make or use or sell is included in the patented claim, where the interpreted claim are including your product, whether your product is infringing those claims. So you have to do the interpretation of those claims. It is important to understand and consider prosecution history also during analysis. So whenever the claim interpretation is done, the professional or anybody who is doing the interpretation, they always consider the prosecution history file. So prosecution history file is with the patent office. So when they examine your patent, the examiner, they will maintain this file. So all the communication with the examiner by patentee is recorded in this file. Initially, when the examiner is doing the examination, he will send the initial preliminary examination report or any objection related to the patent grant. Then the patentee will have to reply to those objections in that initial report. So all these communication are stored in the prosecution history file. So during this prosecution, the patentee may have narrowed down the scope of the claim in order to reply to the examiner objections. Examiner may have had certain objection on patentability. So in order to avoid those objections, maybe patentee has narrowed down the scope of the claim. So you will find out that whether patentee has narrowed down the scope of the claim or not from the prosecution history file. So it is important to understand and consider the prosecution history also during interpretation of the claims. You should also check where the patent has been issued and where it is still pending. So depending on in which country you want to launch your product, so you should find out whether patent has been issued in those countries or whether it is still pending. You should also check whether maintenance fees for the patent has been paid. Every country they have requirement that after grant of the patent, the patentee has to pay the maintenance fee for the patent. Like in US, you have the patentee has to pay the maintenance fee at 3.5 years from the grant, then again at 7.5 years from the grant date, and again at 11.5 years from the grant date. If the patentee does not pay the fee on time, then his patent will lapse, and it will not be effective. So you should always check whether maintenance fee for the patent has been paid or not. If it is not paid, then the patent will lapse and that patent will be of no concern to you. And then you should also check whether patent has been abandoned or not, maybe because of non-payment of fee or some other reasons. So you need to check all these points. The last step is dealing with the adverse patent. If after freedom to operate search, which is first step, and then after claim interpretation, which is second step, you found out that the patent is being infringed by your product or invention, then you have different options to deal with that patent which is being infringed by your product. First option is you may try to obtain a license of the concerned patent from patentee. So you purchase a license. Next option is you ignore the patent and take the risk of infringement litigation. And you can even try to invalidate the patent. You can also obtain invalidity opinion from an expert, but one can still be sued for infringement. Just mere the obtaining the invalidity opinion is not sufficient. You have to invalidate the patent in the court. And invalidation of all claims in the patent can be very difficult because patents are normally written with claims of different scope. The patentee, they draft patent of the claim very carefully. They write many claims, each claim with different scope. Maybe if one or two claim is invalidated, then remaining claim are still valid. And you have to invalidate all the claims which are being infringed by your product. And this infringement suits and invalidation litigation, they are very costly, very time consuming, but still you have this option. If you have the money and time, you can go for it, depending on how big product you are having or you are developing. And the next option is one can also try to circumvent or bypass the patent by trying to develop a non-infringing alternative by making few changes in your product in order to come out of the scope of the patent claim. So you do some R&D. So by doing the R&D in the light of identified patent, you make some changes in your product so that your product comes out of the patent claim, so that you can make changes and that change product may not be infringing the patent claim. So these are the different options if you identify the infringing patent. Either you go for the license, or maybe you take the risk and take the infringement litigation suit, because once you have infringed the patent will file the infringement suit. Or you may try to invalidate the patent in the court case. And last option, which is the best option, is you try to circumvent or bypass the patent by making slight changes in your product, if you can do that by R&D. So that's all in this presentation. Thank you very much.